Welcome in, everybody, to the Alabama Postgame Show presented by Medical Properties Trust. I am Matt Scalisi. This is not a green screen. I am actually here at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium where Alabama just shocked me, you, everybody else. I think we talked this morning, Matt Careford and I here talked about Alabama's chances in this game and what we thought would give them a shot to win this game. But whether you thought Alabama was going to win this game or not, I think you're probably lying if you say you thought that this was going to happen. An absolute dominant beatdown for the final three quarters of this game. Alabama wins 41-24. The Crimson Tide will be heading to the college football playoffs. And honestly, we'll get into it, but Bryce Young is probably going home with some hardware before this is all over with, Mac.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm pumped. When you were talking about it, I was about to say, I kind of thought they would win, but I didn't expect it to be a win like this at this caliber and this level. But it was Roll Tide. I'm super pumped and looking forward to this conversation we're about to have.
I mean, look, there's so much we could talk about in terms of this game, but I think we have to start with Bryce Young's performance. I think we said this morning, Mac, that if Alabama was going to win this game, Bryce Young was going to have to be pretty spectacular. And I'm going to pull his numbers up on screen here. I think this fits the bill. 421 yards passing, 40 yards rushing, 4 total touchdowns, 3 through the air, 1 on the ground. Just an absolutely incredible performance from Bryce Young, probably as good as any individual player performance that we. Certainly in an Alabama SEC championship game, I'm struggling to think of an individual player that has had a better performance in an SEC championship game, Mac. And I'm pretty old. I'm older than you, man.
Hey, I haven't seen anything like. I'm looking at it right now too. I'm like, we're recapping 421 yards passing, 40 rushing, 4 TDs. And then, I remember, too, he just ran a little bit more today. That's what I really love to see, when he was, scrambling a little bit. Because, that's my only thing earlier in the season when people are asking me about it. I'm like, I wish he would run more. And they're like, he needs to protect himself. But those are massive numbers. And then he had that fumble, too, where he fumbled
That's
it
right.
and recovered it. And people were like, how the heck did he do that? And we talked about his composure this morning. And it was like the whole game. It was just, first drive. It didn't go as well as he wanted it to. And then he just comes back out there and then puts together a full game. It's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, I have to say, and I'm here. There's a lot of folks here who are Heisman. Yeah, the chat is going crazy right now. You guys are super excited about what happened, and understandably, here in the building, Matt, there were quite a number of Heisman voters who are members of the media who were here tonight. All I heard any of them talk about going into this game was that no matter what he did so far this year, this was Bryce Young's moment to either win or lose the Heisman Trophy. I know that's a secondary concern for Alabama fans, but I think he did enough tonight. There is really no imaginable way to me that the way that Heisman voters do this, which is so typically based on who played great the last, who has the big Heisman moment. To me, that's what was all over the field tonight. And you go back and look at, I think using his legs was a big part of it. I think the rushing touchdown was big. But I'll tell you the play that sticks out the most to me, Mac, and I want to hear your thoughts on this play individually. But the kind of the moment in this game where I really thought I think he's got the Heisman now was he's running upfield and he pitches the ball like old school option style to Brian Robinson, turns it into a first down gain. It was just that one of those moments where you're thinking, this guy is operating at a different level than everybody else here.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It makes me laugh because I was wondering what play you're talking about. And I'm like, he scrambled a couple of times, and then it's just like, okay, now I know exactly,
Look, he had a lot of good plays. It's easy to forget which one I'm talking about.
He did, but that one was something extremely special. I remember sitting here and I saw it on TV, and I was like, let's go. It just gave me this energy. You don't see that. It's kind of that almost backyard football vibe. like you're just, when you're playing with your buddies when you're younger, you can kind of just wing it, and that like senses kick in where it's not just like, obviously at Alabama, like we train with precise, detailed, but it's like that's something that Coach Saban definitely didn't teach him to do. And it was just that backyard football instinct just comes on and he just tosses it over there. I'm like, this guy is and they called him a point guard. I was like, let's go. It's pretty legendary.
I mean, it was certainly, I think, something that's so hard to defend about him is his how good his decision making is. I think we saw a big separation tonight in what is good about this team and this offense is, look, Georgia's offense has been more than good enough to get the job done all year long, but they didn't have a quarterback who, when things broke down, he could make big things happen. We saw that tonight. Alabama's defense had a great performance, and we really need to talk about them some because, despite giving up 24 points, and I'm sure there were a lot of fans pulling their hair out about the way that Georgia's tight ends were moving the ball down the field, it was certainly a dominant defensive effort, and I don't think people expected that. I mean, you talked about it this morning, but I don't think people thought that the best looking defense tonight would be Alabama's.
Yeah, I think like it's funny, and I tweeted it out, and I had to delete it because I said it the wrong way or whatever when you corrected me on it.
That's right. You got excited, yeah.
But I was pumped because it was like everything we talked about. It was like all those matchups. They were it's just clicking. But with that situation in general, with the defense, like it just was pretty. I was talking to my friend about it. It wasn't like someone. I mean, obviously Jordan Battle had that massive play. Will Anderson played a heck of a game. But it was just an overall good, solid unit. Like the whole unit just seemed to flow well together, play 4 quarters. And both sides of the ball, I feel like we haven't seen that yet, that complete ball game. And that's what we got tonight. And what we were talking about, like the pressure just got to Stetson Bennett, who wasn't able to perform, like he has like earlier this year. And it was really fun to watch. It was an exciting defense.
Yeah, we've got to talk. I've got a comment up on the screen right now from Patrick Yanix, who says the O-line was unreal today, protected Bryce Young well. He deserves that trophy. We got to talk about the offensive line because this was one of your picks this morning for one of the key matchups of the game was that how Alabama's offensive line would hold up. I mean, look, the only real criticism you could have of them after this performance is they only had, I think, 90 yards rushing. 40 of it came from Bryce scrambling. I'm struggling to think of a better offensive line performance for Alabama this year. Just help me understand, Mac, I guess, how do they look like they looked last week? And they come out here against a better team with more talent up front, and they look like they did tonight where Bryce Young had so much time in the pocket. I think he was certainly pressured at times, but all of the big plays downfield that we saw, it happened because of this offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we talked about it earlier, and I know they had some guys injured, and I remember seeing Seth in there, Seth McLaughlin, who's a friend of mine. I was like, dang, like he's getting some action and stuff.
And Seth McLaughlin at center tonight, right?
Yes.
We have not seen much of this year.
Not seen much of him at all. He's younger, and it's like, that we looked like that last week, and then this week we have some younger guys in there, and we perform like that. It's like what we talked about. I just think that, every game preparation, like being a player, preparation was huge, but Coach Saban definitely was like made a point. He's heard it all season. They had that performance last week, and he's like, we have to get this fixed. And I know he was just on those guys all week. And I think too, it's like, I saw a lot of comments about the rat poison thing or whatever, just all the media hype.
Yeah.
Even someone tweeted out that it was like really funny because they're like, Saban is this mastermind. He wanted the media to do this and pitch this thing so that he can use it to motivate the team. And I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to be honest.
Look, I don't know that he was in control of it, but he did say at his press conference, for those of you who haven't seen it, and you can find it wherever you're watching this, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, he said after the game, he said the rat poison this week was yummy, is what Nick Saban said. This is the kind of rat poison he wants because he was on the positive side of it. He got to have his players hearing everybody all week say Alabama didn't have a chance in this game and Georgia was going to mow them down. It's exactly, you're right. It's whether he did anything to make that happen or not. This is the exact motivational setup that Nick Saban prays for every night.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I was saying. I think that it's a combination of people doubting the O-line all year, combination of them playing Georgia, big rivalry, like big game, and then you have like what we're talking about, just the rat poison that's worked in Coach Saban's favor of him probably telling those guys and explaining them like, look, everybody's doubting you guys. No one thinks y'all can really do it. And then, they come out there and they perform like that. They're dangerous with a good offensive line. They are a dangerous team. The pass game was just like unbelievable.
One negative coming out of tonight, John Mechie gets hurt. Saban did not sound very upbeat about Mechie's prospects for playing after tonight. So at least the initial feeling seems to be that he's probably done for the rest of the playoffs. Talk about that a little bit, that loss, and who do you see sort of stepping up to fill in that gap, and can that gap be filled in for Alabama's offense?
Yeah, I mean, first, I hate it for him. It's extremely sad. The positive, there's always positives out of negatives. And I think one big positive out of it is the fact that, like, you look at guys like Landon Dickerson and Waddle and other guys who've gotten hurt in the past, they've honestly been like a morale booster. And Mechie's I'm not saying you want anyone injured. Never would want that to happen. But, like, sure. Someone like Mechie getting injured, he's going to make the most out of it and being a leader on that team. So he's going to be getting those younger guys in the receiver group. He'll be like everyone shows up to practice. He'll be at practice. He'll be motivating, encouraging to those guys, and it almost brings like a little bit of extra juice. Like I said, like Landon Dickerson, when he got hurt, it was like the team could kind of like come around him because no one wants to see that happen. But for filling in, I don't think there's necessarily someone who can fill in that spot. Maybe a guy like JoJo Earl, because he's plays really good slot. But Slade looked great tonight and showed
up. Big game
up
from him, yeah.
So it's like I think we're going to be okay, and I think that again, you never want that to happen to a guy. But if you're choosing someone to happen to, you hope that it would be someone who's got an attitude like John Mechie has. That's a leader on the team that's going to do a good job, rallying and getting the guys together, and they're going to rally around him.
And for those asking, we obviously don't know the specific injury to John Mechie. We wouldn't know something like that this quickly. We'll probably find out at some point this week what the diagnosis is, but it's definitely a knee injury. I can tell you he walked off the field on his own power. I saw him walking around in the near outside the locker room after the game, so he can walk around. But the truth is, you can walk with some pretty serious injuries. Including things like ACL tears, and I'm not saying that's what it is, but you can have injuries that you cannot play football with that you can still walk around perfectly fine with. So we'll see. Certainly, we will have that information for you guys on AL.com when we find it out. Last thing I want to talk about before we wrap this up, Mac, is kind of spinning this forward a little bit. Alabama is going to be in the playoffs. We will find out tomorrow morning exactly how that all shakes out. But if you're looking at the field right now, if you're looking at the other teams out there, Alabama and Georgia are most likely both going to be in the playoffs. The playoff committee does not like to rematch teams in the first round of the playoffs. So you're probably looking at, perhaps Michigan if they finish off and win the Big Ten championship tonight. Perhaps Cincinnati. Notre Dame is another one in the conversation. When you look around the rest of that group of teams that are sort of competing for those spots, and you see how Alabama played tonight, what do you feel like is the biggest challenge for this team to overcome against that group of teams to potentially turn this into a national championship season?
Yeah, I think that, look, the way they played tonight, the way the offensive line played, the receivers played, Bryce, but like the whole team, if they can put together a 4-quarter game like that, I don't see anyone in the country being able to beat them. Now, challenges, obviously, one, we just talked about Mechie being hurt is going to be a little bit of a blow to that offensive unit. They've still got to get some more guys healthy back on the offensive line. And then, I'd like to see the run game because, like you said, Bryce Young attributed to 40 yards. And it's like out of 90? Is that what you said? 90 yards?
Yeah, we had about half the rushing yards, yeah.
And so it's like that's going to be something that these teams can game plan, like we were talking about being like multidimensional. that's, I guess, a struggle. We need to be able to be like multidimensional moving into these playoffs. But like I said, I don't think anyone stands a chance if we can put together 4 like we did tonight. And then also I'm excited because Jerome Ford, former Alabama player, running back, plays for Cincinnati. So like what a small, crazy like story would it be if Alabama ended up playing them?
Well, we will find out in probably roughly 14, 15 hours or so where Alabama is headed for the playoffs and who their opponent will be. We will have all of that stuff for you here wherever you're watching this on AL.com. Tons of great comments from you guys in the comment section tonight. Loving seeing all the enthusiasm. And Mac, thank you for joining us for all of your analysis tonight. Can we give you a little spot here for where people can find you? Where's your best content if people want to see what Mac is making?
I appreciate I keep laughing too because I'm looking at the background and I'm like, this can't be real. Like
I will say it really does kind of look green screenish just because there's so much signage back there. But I promise you, look, we'll move the camera around a little bit. But
there we go.
There we go. We're here.
Oh man, that's unbelievable. That looks great. But I guess Instagram. It's I forgot to change my the name thing on here, so it's actually my is right there at MAC_HEREFORD. It's the same on Twitter, and then on TikTok, it's just Mac Hereford, just all one word. So there's just some places you can find my content. But absolutely love y'all having me on, Matt. And Roll Tide, huge W tonight. I'm super pumped. So hopefully we'll be able to chat sometime soon.
We'll go celebrate Mac and then celebrate everybody else who's watching tonight and enjoying themselves. Certainly a lot to celebrate for this team and for this fan base tonight. A huge win again for Alabama over Georgia in the SEC championship, 41-24. Alabama is headed most likely to the college football playoffs, and we will have a lot of stuff still to come before we know the story of this 2021 Alabama football team. So for Mac Hereford, I am Matt Scalisi. Thanks you guys for watching the Alabama Postgame Show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. And we will see you guys again with more coverage of this team as it comes heading into what should be a very exciting offseason. Thanks, guys. Good night.
Medical Properties Trust, at the very heart of healthcare.